Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new SkillCapped guide. I'm Carnage and today I am going to show you 10 of the biggest aim mistakes that you are probably making and show you exactly how to fix them. And if you're serious about improving, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. Backed by our rank improvement guarantee, you have nothing to lose. So come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. Now, without any further ado, let's hop into mistake number 1, and that is changing your settings way too often. Whether it is your sensitivity or even your crosshair, changing these settings often can be detrimental to your aiming success. The main reason that this is true is because of the concept known as muscle memory. As you play Valorant, your brain is learning exactly what movements it needs to make in order to move your crosshair a certain distance across your screen. Obviously, the more memory your brain develops, the more consistent you will be. Changing up your settings, especially sensitivity, resets this entire process from the start. Instead of constantly switching up your settings, try to find a good personal preference for you and stick to it. This will keep you more consistent and eventually will make aiming much easier. Next up, we have mistake number 2 that is not differentiating between recoil and raw aim. When someone talks about good aim, they think of players like Shroud, able to instantly flick to players' heads and tap them. Well, what happens after this point if you miss that first shot? Many times you're forced into spraying your gun and controlling your recoil. This is exactly why differentiating between raw aim and gun recoil is very important on your aiming journey. Remember that these two things are different even though they do fall into that same category. So try to focus on more than just your raw flicking capability. And weirdly enough, this leads us directly into our next mistake, which is not focusing on all of the different types of aim. It may not seem like it, but there are many different types of aim depending on the situation you're in. For instance, there's tracking, there's flicking, recoil control, and even multi-target situational aim situations. All these different parts of aim a lot of times will get thrown under the same umbrella, but in reality they're all very different. The key to mastering aim is dividing your focus amongst all the different scenarios you may be in and practice them all. This will keep you more prepared in those unpredictable situations and will lead to you being a much better overall player and aimer. Moving on, let's talk about mistake number 4. And that is not practicing consistently or even not practicing correctly. First, let's talk about consistency. Many people say consistency is key to a lot of aspects of life. Well, working on your aim is really no different. You need to make sure you are practicing often and making sure you are keeping that muscle memory in check as time goes on. Secondly, you need to make sure you are practicing correctly. You might be thinking to yourself, how in the world can I practice incorrectly? Any practice is good, right? Well, kinda. When you practice, you need to remember this one phrase. Practice how you want to play. Essentially, if you constantly are practicing your aim in a way that is not how you would be playing, this can have a negative effect on your overall skill. Overall, just be sure when you practice your aim, you're doing it in a way that is consistent and relative to the way that you plan on playing in game. And if you're looking for a good way to actually practice your aim, you're in luck, because this brings us to mistake number 5, which is simply not practicing or not practicing correctly. So let's talk about a couple of ways to practice your aim in Valorant. First, we have my personal favorite, which is the training range in Valorant. While on the main menu screen, you can press this practice button and it will take you to the training ground. While here, you can practice whatever your heart desires on these bots. You can even make them move. Our second practice method is also within Valorant, and it is the Deathmatch game mode. Deathmatch is a great way to practice because it puts you in many different gunfights that will test your aim in real game situations. This is also much better than playing a normal game because the number of engagements per minute is so much higher. And finally, we have the third-party aim trainers. Personally, I have not found much success with this, but if you're having trouble improving in-game, maybe consider downloading a third-party aim trainer. You can find a variety of options simply on the Steam Marketplace. Moving on, we are going to go over a very common low elo mistake, which is your movement while aiming. Your movement is just as important as your actual crosshair, and let me show you why. Here we see a clip of the bullet spread of a player that is standing still and even crouching to help control their spray. Here though, we see a different clip of the bullet spread of a player that is moving just a tiny bit as they try to aim. We can easily see that the first player was able to control their bullets in a much more condensed zone, which will lead to them securing more kills. Even subtle things like jumping and moving just a little bit can impact your aim in ways that are unimaginable. So, as you practice your aim, be sure you are also working on that movement to ensure the most optimal results. And heading into mistake number 7, we have bad angle selection. Sometimes the angle you're holding is just as important as your raw skill. So, instead of trying to hit some crazy shot on your enemy, go ahead and take the safer angle. Holding a safer angle will allow the fight to be a much more aim-focused fight rather than a positioning-focused one. And as your aim improves, you're going to want to force your opponent into aim duels rather than any other type of skill. One good example of a bad angle or position is standing here on C lawn. If a player peeks, they have an advantage on you simply because of where you are. This is going to make it much harder to aim. On the other hand though, you can hold the same area of the map just from this safer position. This will force the enemy to out-aim you rather than just simply outplay you. Next up, we have mistake number 8, which is trying to flick or make some god-tier aim play rather than simply focusing on crosshair placement and raw aim. Many times you will see players try to flick to their opponent and hit some crazy shot, when really they could have done the much safer option and had this kill secured. This safer option that I am talking about is focusing on their crosshair placement and then worrying about those aim skills. Your crosshair placement is simply where you place your crosshair while just walking around, or maybe when you're about to get into a fight. This will keep you not only level-headed because you don't have to do anything uncomfortable, but it will also help mold you as a more consistent overall player and aimer. The best way to really nail this one down is really to just keep this in the back of your mind as you play. Try to constantly remind yourself to place your crosshair in a good area that the enemy could come into, and eventually it will turn into muscle memory. Moving on to number 9, we have simply having a bad mentality or mindset surrounding your aim and overall performance. If you're too hard on yourself, you will end up failing because you have to give yourself that time to learn and time to get used to really trying with aim. It's very common that while in ranked mode, players will actually play worse because they are too worried about losing their rank or their performance, and this a lot of times will impact their aim. Well, I actually have a great solution to this issue. The best way to tackle this problem of mentality is to stop caring about your results and focus more on the small things. For instance, go an entire act playing ranked games, but don't worry about your rank for the entire period of this act. You can then just focus on your own gameplay, and maybe next act you want to focus more on getting your rank up. I promise if you think about the game this way, you will not only improve greatly, you will also rank up way easier. And finally, we have a kind of related mistake, which is only focusing on your aim. If you disregard the rest of the aspects of the game, you will end up suffering in the long term. It might seem counterintuitive to tell you to focus on other mechanics within an aim guide, but it will in the long run help your aim. If you completely forget about many other mechanics, you're going to have to play catch up and focus solely on those. This will ruin your aim and will be terrible for your performance in the long run. So while you're working on your aim, still be sure to take some time to think about some of the other important mechanics that make Valorant, Valorant. Wow, we just went over 10 of the worst aiming mistakes that you are probably making and taught you exactly how to fix them. If this video helped you even in the slightest, be sure to comment down below which tip was most helpful, and while you're down there, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date with the most high quality Valorant guides on all of YouTube. And remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. That is going to wrap it up for this one, so good luck, good half, and good game.